What is going on, YouTube? Coming back today with really my take on some news that just came out. I haven't been given much input on the NBA in a little while, something that I used to do a little bit more of, but kind of shied off of recently. I guess actually my last set of videos that I really did last year was mostly on the NBA from what I know. Anyway, move into some news that came out today. Just here recently about Ersan Ilyasova signing with the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, the Sixers are a team, obviously, the whole trust the process thing, the turnaround finally panning out for them. I haven't talked much about that recently, but, all those years for the build-up of young talent kind of panning out now. And they've got a pretty deep roster, between a few players that I didn't know if they would or not, ultimately working out. Between Dario Saric, obviously Joel Embiid finally getting healthy, JJ Redick, a nice pickup at shooting guard, Ben Simmons having a good season as well. This pickup of Ersan Ilyasova is one of my favorite moves that I've seen among free agent pickups during the actual season. Obviously he's a veteran guy that can provide a steadying force on the bench with a few other guys like Jared Bayless, Marco Bellinelli. What happens with Timothy Luwawu and then Marco Bellinelli now will be interesting. But there's a couple reasons why I really like this move for the 76ers. Now, the first one is just Ilyasova's track record. He is about a 10 to 11 point per game producer. He's a good shooter most of the time. Obviously, a three-point threat when he can actually we can actually find his stroke, and I think he'll be a strong producer from the bench. If they want to put him in behind JJ Redick, obviously another three-point shooter, or a three-point shooter in and of his own right. Ilyasova, in his one season with the Sixers, spent, 50 games about. Actually had his best, or by far his most productive time with any team. Spent a good bulk of his career with the Milwaukee Bucks. Again, right around that 10.7 point per game mark. But again, that 40, 50 games he spent with the Sixers, I mean, he was absolutely stroking it from three, shooting right around 36%, but also cranking a lot of threes too. I mean, he was shooting around 5 or 6 threes per game, which again is his highest mark ever. He's a good guy that can stretch the floor. I was saying earlier that it'll be interesting to what happens at power forward for them, or shooting guard, and he'll fall in at power forward. Ignore that part that I said earlier. On the depth chart, power forward is probably the thinnest spot, I would say, for the Sixers, or at least at that small forward, power forward spot. You got Rashawn Holmes and Trevor Booker. I guess Trevor Booker can be solid, fitting in behind Saric, but I think that Ilyasova could not only be a solid rotation guy, but even start a few games if Saric hits a rough spot here or there. Saric obviously having a big year, putting up about 15 points, 7 rebounds per game, but Ilyasova can be a very solid producer behind him. I'm not sure what Trevor Booker's stat line is looking like right now. So I can get a little bit more accurate depiction of that, pulling it up. Trevor Booker in his time with the Nets and Utah Jazz was good, but not great. Obviously, his best time coming with the Nets. But I don't think he started a single game this year with the Sixers and produces about 4 or 5 points per game. So he won't be affected too much there. And I know the last one is Rashawn Holmes, who's found himself as a nice little role player in the NBA. but he's about 5 or 6 points per game and won't have. I don't think he'll have any major impact. He's also a guy that won't stretch the floor for you at all. He's more of a backup, power forward, center type. Whereas Joel Embiid and Dario Saric are players that actually can shoot a little bit from outside. But anyway, again, I do like this move by the Sixers. To pick up Ilyasova, just the track record he has in the past. The Sixers are a team that could use some depth building for the playoffs. They have 32 wins, 25 losses, and are firmly in a playoff spot in the East. An Eastern Conference that's kind of, I won't say wide open entering the playoffs, but, the Celtics, I believe, still in first place in the East, and the Cavs having a hard time finding any sort of traction this year. Let me get my full picture of the Eastern Conference standings. They're actually the Raptors holding the top spot right now. They've been pretty hot of late, 8-2 in their last 10 games. The Celtics just half a game behind them. But the Sixers right now sitting in 7th place, sandwiched right between the Heat and the Bucks. The Wiz and the Pacers not too far ahead of them either, about 2 games each. But you look at the difference between 8th and 9th right now. It's separated by 2.5 games. The Sixers right now are roughly 5 games ahead of the Detroit Pistons and even further ahead of the Hornets. Unless the Pistons or Hornets, the Hornets are playing a little bit better right now. I believe they've won their last 3 or 4 games. Unless the Pistons or Hornets really catch fire down the stretch in these final 20 games or so, I think the Sixers are pretty much good. They do have the young talent to really make it through here. Anyway, like I said, point here, I do really like the signing, I think, among free agent signings at this point. It's one of the better moves that they could have made. Actually, claiming him off waivers, not really free agent signing. But anyway, that is pretty much it. See ya.